So yeah, about this crisis of faith. I went and I spoke with my teacher about the different versions of Icaros the maestra sung for her tapestry, and what I got from my teacher was basically that I don't get Icaros, I don't understand how they work, because being a musician kind of biases me and makes it hard for me to see through the structure of the music into what an Icaro really is. So, as a musician, of course, with all my experience of sitting in ceremonies with different facilitators, I always thought an Icaro was a song, and it was sung with a certain melody and certain phrasing and rhythm and pitch and intervals and tempo and everything, to be consistent every time it was sung. That was my impression of what an Icaro was, and everyone I've sat with up until this point kind of confirmed it. But according to my teacher, that is not an Icaro. That is just basically parroting an Icaro. An Icaro comes spontaneously, it comes in the moment, and it is all about the intention, and it is about the feeling and the energy and the emotion and what needs to be done at that particular moment in that particular space for a particular person. So to see a shaman or a maestro singing the same Icaros to the same people every night here just doesn't happen. When we're in ceremony, I do hear our maestro sing Icaros that are familiar, they sound similar, because she has a certain range of songs that she uses. Now, the words are always different, and according to my teacher, the intention behind them is always different. So it's just like a palette of colors that she uses to paint. She may have like 8 or 9 musical patterns that she calls upon, but each time she does, a musical pattern and sings it, it could be a different Icaro for a different purpose with different intent. And so the music and the vibration just turn into like a vehicle or a method of channeling that intent, from her to the plants inside of the person she's healing, or to the space, or to the person themselves. That's why when she sang from the tapestry both times, it was different, because what she wove into the tapestry was the feeling, the sentiment, the emotion behind the Icaro, and the actual melody that's being used is irrelevant. Well, that's what my teacher said anyway. I don't know how to process that. I mean, in a way it makes sense, but in a way it also covers all the bases and makes a really good explanation. And that's really the frustrating thing about it, is I cannot anchor down on either side of, is this real or is this bullshit? Because once I start falling into the direction of bullshit, something happens that makes me wonder, maybe it's real. And then once I start believing that it's real, something happens that makes me think it's bullshit. And I wish there was an absolute way of knowing. And when I asked my maestra, she said, well, if you want hard proof, you're not going to get it. You're not going to find it. And that's also kind of typical and expected, because it follows the line of knowing, is it real or is it not? Well, you're not going to know. The medicine and whatever is conspiring is saying, yeah, well, we're not going to answer that for you. You got to figure that shit out for yourself. And that's hard. That's really hard. I grew up with a lot of skepticism and a lot of doubt. I think we all have, in a way, because we live in a society that needs to be skeptical in order to survive. We are surrounded by bullshit 24 hours a day. There are bullshit on media, on social media, in the news, bullshit on all the ads and advertising, bullshit on the pictures of the food at restaurants. Everything is bullshit. Even people, right? We could be with someone and, love them and be devoted and, completely vulnerable, and we can get 1,000 I love yous from that person, and all those I love yous don't mean shit when one thing goes wrong. Or we could be in a situation where we think we know someone and it turns out they're a completely different person. And they were pretending to be different the whole time. So we're always on our guard. We're always watching out for signs of someone, being disingenuous or dishonest or potentially, that can hurt us. And we do that in our transactions, of course, because people call to try to scam us all the time. So, every email we get that looks good, that looks promising, we always assume it's a scam. And every time we get a phone call about something we could have won potentially, we always assume it's a scam. So this skepticism is bred into us because the world is cruel and society is cruel, and there's a lot of people who are disingenuous, who are willing to take advantage of those who are open and trusting and loving and vulnerable. So we carry all this skepticism. Mine is particularly heavy. Because I'm particularly sensitive. I'm sensitive to, being hurt, to being betrayed, to being, mistreated. And so my skepticism is probably my biggest guardian. And unfortunately, that protects me, but it does not make me happy. I get no joy out of being skeptical, right? And even here, right, in this moment, in the presence of all of this jungle and medicine and practice, and one stupid Icaro is enough to bring the skepticism up to 10. I hate that. I don't like being like this, but it's just so natural to me. So ultimately the question is, am I here to find out whether all of this is real or whether all of this is crap? And the question I have to ask on top of that is that important? Why is that important? What's the point of knowing that? Is it going to make me any happier as a person if I know this is all real or this is all bullshit? Nothing's going to change. I'm going to go back into my life and continue being skeptical about everything else. So maybe the lesson here isn't about, proving one way or the other if Icaros are really Icaros, and if the maestra can really sing Icaros from her tapestries, or if there's any real magic out there, or if the medicine has any power. Maybe that's not the point. Because while I'm there to satisfy my curiosity, I don't see how that is going to make me any happier in life. I don't see how that's going to give me joy in life moving forward. And being less skeptical and less cynical is probably closer to the joy and the happiness that I seek than knowing whether I'm right or wrong. Maybe accepting that I don't know and making peace with it is the way to get closer to the happiness and the joy that I've been chasing for so long. So, thoughts about where I'm going in my mind, how interesting tonight's ceremony is going to be, and maybe I won't have any answers. Maybe I won't have any conclusions when I come home. But maybe that's not really what I want. Maybe what I want when I come home is to be happier, to love more, to love sincerely, to love without fear, to love without skepticism, to accept that life is good and that no one's really out to get me, to protect myself on reasonable levels and on my own terms, and to find the answers within myself as opposed to all of these external things I'm chasing. And that sounds very guru, and I don't know where that came from. It just popped into my mind to say it, but I'm still trying to figure out what that means. Looking for answers within myself. Shit. That means I haven't even started the journey yet.